I am Great Mother, Holy Spirit, Yin, Divine Mother, Cosmic.
Great Mother speaks to us as the Holy Spirit that inspired our incarnation, the still small voice of intuition that guides it, and what we know in and through each new and full moon phase of our lives. And of course, the lunar cycle is marked by the dance between Great Mother, Father God. It's light and shadows, that perpetual dance that's going on. And right now we have the nodal axes, okay, and that's all lunar oriented as well. There's a point upon the elliptical where the moon and the sun meet, and that's called the nodes. And that changes every 18 months, and now we're in a phase midway through. We've just had our mid-eclipse readings about a month ago. The North Node is in Leo, and the South Node is in Aquarius, and the Western and the North Node is in Cancer and in Capricorn and the Sidereal. And so what happens with these types of readings is that we really get a look into the planetary, your signs, collective consciousness and unconsciousness, specifically with lunar readings, and individual if you get a personal reading into the precise nature of how these energies are supporting you to feel and experience that divinity regardless of what's going on in our lives. When you know and live by your divinity, you feel it in your bones, you feel it in your heart and mind and body. You feel you are dearly loved. You feel that you are a child of the Great Mother, Father God, the mother of all mothers, the father of all fathers. You know that. You live, breathe, and have your being through this inner awareness. And this inner awareness, I summarize in a way for us to connect this feeling with one another and through one another in these readings. And they are free principles. The first principle is that we are dearly loved children of the Great Mother, Father God. Just saying it, just asserting that. Because that is the whole deal, right? That is the divinity, is in knowing and owning that. The deck has gods and goddesses on each card, and it's all about us owning our divinity as gods and goddesses by recognizing and seeing that those energies also emanate through and as us as well. The second principle is that we are never, ever condemned or left alone. We live in a world of relentless retribution. Even our entertainment is about judging. Hey, I love Judge Judy. And I think I love it, speaking for myself, just those type of court shows, really. The other entertainment things, not so much. But just personally, I mean, we all have our favorites because this is the collective consciousness, right? So for me, I like watching her because it's some kind of resolve that gets beyond the judgment and looks at really what is the equity of the situation, which is what these readings help us to see. They help us to see our soul experience and really what it's trying to do as us and through us. So we're never judged or condemned. We are just made more aware. And the third principle is that we're never left alone. Our angels, guides, and ancestors are always with us. We are so dearly loved that even in our illusionary experience in this earth realm, we are constantly being reminded of that if we would just tap into and own our divinity. So this feeling, this very nature of the moon sign, the very intuitive breath of inspiration of all life is what we are saying here with Great Mother speaking through her still small voice to us and through us, this feminine nature within ourselves to be able to receive and acknowledge this love is where we, in our physical form, tend to experience this divinity as shadows, darkness, challenges, and obstacles in life that keep us from actually having that root, instinctual, intuitive, primeval sense of this eternal love. So through these disappointments in life, as a result of abandonment or experiences of abuse that create pain and produce trauma so early in life and so routinely, we forget our divinity, and that these constraints that we experience, shadows, darkness, challenges, obstacles, etc., are really there as a means to remind us that we're never alone, that we're never judged or condemned, that we are divine. And so how is that, you say? How is this a means to remind me? Well, we are more than our physical selves. And so a challenge that is insurmountable to the ego mind. And here, when we talk about ego, we're talking about our biography, the story that we tell. If you were to write the book of your life, on the inside flap, the way you would describe yourself after your name is what we mean by ego here, because we are working from the presumption that either the ego is already healthy, or that you are here because you are striving to align your ego with your soul to become healthy. So there's a level of consciousness that's presumed in these videos being watched as well. So these obstacles, these shadows are constantly reminding us that we're more than our physical bodies, because when we surrender to the obstacle and the challenge or the shadow, especially if it's a new moon shadow, that is the opportune time to present our wishes and our prayers to the cosmos based on the energy that's available. We've just had our Pisces new moon, and so that energy was all about our psychic and mystical selves and trusting that and learning to surrender to that and wishes associated with that. And so each lunar cycle in the new moon phase, we can surrender ourselves so that we can see ourselves beyond the challenges. These challenges are also loving opportunities presented by Great Mother's shadows, because she speaks to us through signs and symbols. These shadows of the lunar phases, they help us to balance the mundaneness and intensity of the physical linear world that we experience in the ego body. Okay, so to every up, there's a down. To every in, there's an out, etc. And so there's yin-yang throughout the cosmos as we know it. And so there is this balancing effect that we experience in the physical world. But what Great Mother is reminding us of through these experiences of pain and trauma oftentimes is that we need to balance the mundaneness and the intensity of this physical linear world with our spiritual insight, with our internal imaginative wisdom that is always capable of facing that challenge and staring it down. That third eye of Horus, that's what that's about. That big old eye is like looking at this obstacle problem that we think is the world, and the end of it like, I've seen you before, I hear you come again, which usually is what trauma is all about. It's a pattern that the soul has had that is always being called up to be healed. And so that third eye of Horus is an opportunity always eternally available to us to, again, surrender to in order to balance that mundaneness of those patterns, the mundaneness of this day in, day out life that seems like it will never end, that is overwhelming us, that we have no control over. And we focus on the intensity of this need to control as opposed to simply being in charge of our divinity. And so another way that I like to share with individuals that this great mother energy supports us is by building our inner strength through these challenges. Now, I know that we hear this all the time, but what is really being said here is that the kind of inner strength that great mother is building, of course, is that soul strength that refreshes it, that soul evolutionary energy that it can experience within our physical life. We don't have to physically release the body and die in order for the soul to evolve. We can evolve and be reborn, as many of us know, be resurrected into a new self within our lives as we align with our soul, sometimes reluctantly. But here there's an opportunity to build that inner strength and resiliency on a soul level consciously. And so we can do it consciously or unconsciously, but when we know that the shadows through the phases from the new moon to the crescent, to the first quarter, to the full moon, third quarter, and the balsamic are all about energies within the constellations and the many mansions, the star mansions, the houses in the sky, to place us emotionally and intuitively in a space that we can feel the support, well, then these readings make a whole lot more sense. And so that's why knowing our birth chart, that eloquent picture of our soul and the ego experience it chose as us, is useful. Okay, so we can, actually locate ourselves. So because each of our stories and soul scenarios are so different that, Great Mother even channeled to me the universal heroine's tale of Dorothy of the Wizard of Oz for the Great Mother Speaks Oracle deck, just so we could have a connection point, a through line, that we could all kind of have as a touch point and a touchstone for these readings. And originally I had prayed to Great Mother asking for guidance about how to get immediate downloads from her for individuals healing from mama drama trauma, which is my area of life coaching specialization. I'm an inner work life coach who specializes in the term that I coined, mama drama trauma, the taboo Me Too subject. And so there is a lot of information about that if you're interested. But what I have found out is that these readings really help anyone, any walk of life who is sensitive. They tend to be empathic or intuitive individuals that, for the most part, feel blocked, constrained, or paralyzed by emotions that are really originating from unacknowledged shadows. We all have shadows, and that is, it's an unacknowledged shame. It's something that we'd rather not admit in ourselves, a quality, something. And so these are aspects in our chart. They're not secrets. They're right there staring at us in our birth chart. I mean, I know, like, for me, it was really shocking when I was learning to read charts. And, as you learn, you go back to your own stuff. And I was cycling back to my own chart. And I learned that I was coming off a certain way to people because that is what my soul needed and what it wanted to be able to focus on what it needed to do this lifetime. So while my ego was feeling alienated and alone, my soul was like, good, I need space. I need to be alone. I got a lot of stuff to do. I ain't got time to be bothered this lifetime. I kick it with y'all the next go round. But this go round, I am really enjoying this anonymity. So That's something that people, who always say, oh, you should be doing this and people should be knowing what you're doing, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, Great Mother gets to all of us the way that she needs to. I don't need to be on a buglehorn about anything. The way the energies work is that we're all attracted to what we need, aren't we? And so with my work and my experience, I have found that this deck really does work. So if you are a subscriber, you've probably heard me refer to this quite a lot, that these readings are really designed for intuitives, sensitives, and empaths. Anybody can listen. Everybody's invited. It's just that I started uploading them for my clients as a support, interim support between sessions, because I like to teach my clients how to read their own birth chart to become conscious and everything. So anyway, that's important because the readings are not about telling you how you are feeling, okay? I'm not telling you how you feel. The readings are about you being able to be aware of what the celestial and planetary energies are that are affecting your emotional body, okay? And that you have a way out. Especially if you are a highly sensitive person, it gives you a way out of those blocked, constraining, and emotionally paralyzing situations, so that you can again be in touch with your divinity in a way that you're not overwhelmed by the emotion. And so Great Mother really wanted to connect through my work with people who have problems with the emotional connection and trusting the intuition or being overwhelmed by emotions. They tend to have some type of mama drama trauma or daddy drama trauma because that allowed for that intuition to be hyper served and to be hyper developed for survival. And Great Mother really wants to come through to her children who have had that alienating and estranged experience from the birth home experience, so that they can feel her love and learn how to get in touch with her love. She's really wanting to connect with them through my work. So I want to share that with you about the deck and about what the readings are about, because if you can unlock how the shadows bind you, and you can keep those challenges and obstacles from doing that, then you can shine your light in the world, your unique light. It wasn't until I was able to get in touch with that within myself, that whole thing about how I connect with people and the ego feeling alone emotionally and stuff, but my soul on an intuitive level kept on telling me it's cool, it's cool, it's cool. We need to get down to work. You only have so much time here. When I came to peace with that, oh my God, do I feel my divinity or what? I mean, the downloads I get are just... So let me go ahead. Okay. So, excuse me. So remember, Glinda in The Wizard of Oz, the Good Witch, she symbolizes Great Mother in The Wizard of Oz, okay? And remember, she inspired Dorothy to go to Oz, okay, who symbolizes Great Father, that yellow brick road, gut chakra, that instinctual part of us. Eye of Horus, sixth chakra, is that intuitive part of us. And so we have that ego-soul connection there. We have the rainbow world of Oz, the chakras. And so that experiential existence, the gods and goddesses in the deck, the chakra in the deck, the chakras in the deck, the lunar cycles in the deck. She came through with all of that, and she had Dorothy go there so that she could see the light of her being once again. She came from the black and white world of the yin and the yang, the origin of the cosmos, the birth family, the soul group, the urge to evolve and to experience, have sensory experience through the chakras. And she incarnated as she descended from the twister dream, okay, in the house, that root chakra rooted itself in Munchkin land, okay, and quickly growing through that onto the gut chakra, okay, the root chakra through the second chakra. Her desire, which she asserted, was to go back home in Munchkin land. And in the yellow brick road, the gut chakra, excuse me, Oz, the greenery of Oz, the heart chakra. So what we have here is her growing through that ego experience, that earth experience, to see her light again, which is Great Father, that light that shines and reminds us, of that greatness, okay? And so likewise, as the galaxies and planetary bodies, including our physical body, comprises the physical outer form of Great Father, the inner world of Great Mother, that still small voice that emanates from the primordial black hole and holds existence in her womb, is where we come from and express ourselves just like the planets and the galaxies, Great Father energy. Okay, so we're born of them and comprised of this energy. It is within us. We are made of star stuff. And our birth chart is just a picture of that star stuff at our birth. But we have transit charts as well. And so you can have a chart of when your child was born or when you got married or when you started a business. It'll talk about the birth of different things in your life as well. And so we do transit charts every new and full moon. This is the second quarter one. And we're looking at ourselves as such, as children of the Great Mother, Father, God, as divine children of the Great Mother, Father, God. And so the most important thing in our birth chart, therefore, are our sun and moon signs, because they activate all other aspects. The sun, inescapable, fixed light, casts its light on the nature and personality of the soul, whose actions are inspired by the shadows of the moon, the soul essence. So Great Mother inspires the emotions and our intuition, inspire our actions, inspire those unique personality traits, what I like to call that cosmic calculus that makes us who we are and who we are learning more about through these readings and through our experiences with these readings, paying attention to what actually does, come about in your life, These loving trends that are constantly available to us are unlocked through these readings, that unconditional, compassionate, nurturing, kind nature that Great Mother has for us and Great Mother expresses, but it's hard again to see in the physical world, right? We talked about that. And so let's tap into the season of this quarter. It's a look at what the supportive energies are for you to plot and plan this quarter. And so the plotting and the planning is the plotting of your lot to plant, right? And that's the new moon energy. The realization of what you've planted, the fruition, the light coming to full illumination, is the full moon. And the full moon also at the back end of it is about releasing things from what you've planted that you decide, I really don't want that anymore, or I really thought I wanted it, but I don't want it now, or that really didn't come to full fruition, it really was kind of a stunted growth, so I'm going to pull it out, So that's the full moon reading. And so your birth chart is an elegant illustration of where your soul was at the time of its incarnation. So just like this seasonal reading is tapping in on this present time between April and June, your birth chart tapped into the exact snapshot of the unique positioning of the planets and constellations as they were at the time of your birth. This was most accurately calculated and clocked in the VEDIC, Jyotish, or Sidereal astrology, the cosmic astrology that looks at the soul. It is it signifies, this moon sign signifies the karmic nature of your soul. Okay. The Western or tropical that we use in the readings as well specifically locates the soul in its present focus on Earth. its earth experience, honing in on its emotional status and its unique body mind that the soul occupies at this time. Okay? And so this two-way communication nexus between the ego and the soul, as signified in the Western moon sign, where emotion is uploaded to the soul, sidereal, and intuition downloaded from the soul to the earth-centric Western sign, is really what we are talking about when we're going back and forth, or rather when I'm going back and forth in the readings. I'm talking about if you are, for example, Aries Taurus, then what you have is, for instance, if you have a Taurus moon sign, it's likely you have an Aries in the Vedic moon sign, okay? And this is already divinely aligned because the Taurus with the feminine Venus ruler and the Aries with the masculine Mars tells us the emotions of this fixed earth sign is providing the cardinal intuitive energy of the soul sign, an evolutionary opportunity to learn leadership in a physical environment enamored by sensory pleasure and stimulation. So, such deep pleasure through this awareness and knowledge of supportive celestial energies as they travel within, through, and around your lunar signs, houses, nodes, nakshatras, gives you a general reading for Taurus moon signs. In this example, to tell you what these energies are for your collective celestial unconscious based on the basic Aries sidereal moon sign. So I read the energies from the first house. So, for instance, this Aries Taurus example, the reading would make Taurus the first house, Gemini the second, Cancer the third, etc. However, if your unique individual chart, you have your moon sign in your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, or 12th house, book a personal reading for a precise assessment of your Western Vedic, solar, lunar, and ego soul energies supporting their alignment, and therefore your experience of divinity as a dearly loved child of the great Mother, Father, God, who is never judged or condemned or left alone. And with that, here is your 2018 second quarter moon sign, Great Mother Speaks reading.
Hello, Cancer, Leo, Moon people. Let's see what Great Mother is speaking into your spring equinox. Happy new season for you. If it's fall equinox for you, happy harvest season for you. And this opens up with energy from the March full moon in Virgo, Libra. This full moon is the cardinal full moon of Libra air energy. And for Cancer, being in water in the Western, that is a feminine energy that is finding its way out of a long winter sleep into the spring, awakening into the spring. And so with full moon energy, we're talking about how you're feeling now after that long sleep, or again after the long planting and harvesting, going into the harvesting season if you're in the southern hemisphere. We are coming into a new phase, transitioning. And so on a soul level for you, coming from this Cancer energy, we're looking at the download being an emotional one that is a receptive energy. So this energy is now with the March full moon that opens up the spring equinox being interpreted emotionally through Leo energy, masculine fixed fire energy. And so you're ready to go as usual, but perhaps more than usual with regard to this being in your third house. And so there are some uploads that the soul is receiving from the Leo, ready to go forward, some emotional uploads. And what the soul is downloading is now being felt as something from a higher knowing, from a higher wisdom, because the sun is illuminating the moon from the ninth house. The sun is in Pisces, Aries, and so that Pisces, that higher knowledge, wanting to act on that higher knowledge, that ninth house energy from the sun, illuminating that full moon in Virgo, Libra, that need to communicate. And so the card in this position of March that's coming up is Hatar. Great Mother is saying that you are feeling a need to have fun, to enjoy your life, to actually leave that very busy planting season and go into the harvest season with celebration, to leave that long winter's night in the northern hemisphere into the spring with pleasure, with enthusiasm, and with a sense that you are not only worthy of this pleasure and enjoyment, but that you have a great anticipation that your bliss is being followed. And so this full moon is bringing up feelings of needing to communicate and to share that with others. This energy is being supported by the nakshatra of Uttara Falguni, that Cancer, that soul, actually uploading that emotion of pleasure from the second chakra, crescent moon energy, that planting the seed energy of that pleasure. In the Cancer, Uttara Falguni, and the Sidereal, it's all about being able to really trust that deep knowledge, really trust that higher knowledge of knowing your worthiness and knowing that this pleasure is something from a deep soul level, because we have second chakra new moon energy. I said crescent moon. This is new moon energy. And so this even signifies it even more, because new moon is all about the downloading of deep soulful information from Great Mother to inspire your planning moving forward. And so with Uttara Falguni, it's a very calculating energy. And so maybe, for you, as this March full moon is setting the arc for your spring equinox, you actually have some plans about what you're going to do methodically with regard to this pleasure. There's something that really has you riled up. There's something in terms of following your bliss that really has you wanting to pursue it. Maybe your occupation is being taken to a different level. Maybe a relationship is being taken to a different level. But regardless, you've been freed up and you are now crossing the bridge into a new phase of your life. You are being supported with this energy that is saying that you can trust what you have been inspired to do in terms of following your bliss. It is an energy that says that you can calculate what it is that you need to do to make that happen. You're feeling like making it happen, but before you do, in all earnest, this energy is allowing you to actually critique whatever imbalances still exist from the prior season, so you don't bring those forward with you as you pursue this pleasure. Uttara Falguni is an energy that trusts that higher knowledge, but with a real kind of ability to ground that higher knowledge in fulfilling what it is you want to fulfill. It is a energy that it takes action based on a real spiritual unction. It takes action that is, able to use that illumination of the sun from Pisces, Aries in the ninth house in meaningful ways. So that is what's coloring your arc, is Hathor. And of course, we know Hathor as the Egyptian goddess, the mother of pleasure, that reminds us that we are incarnate to enjoy our lives. So the indication that you're crossing from one phase to another is not just from the seasons, but it's also from the phase of the Wizard of Oz, the scene from the Wizard of Oz, in which Dorothy actually crosses the bridge from the farmhouse when she runs away to the camp of Professor Marvel. And so that new journey, that new moon type of energy, that new moon journey. For you, however, this is kind of coming up as something that is not just leaving something that you want to run away from, like you're running away in fear, but you truly are following your bliss. That's really important to be clear about what's motivating your actions that inspire that inner unconscious world as you move forward this spring equinox. On the new moon in April, from that imprint that we see in March, that Hatar, that pleasure principle, we're seeing that the Pisces Aries new moon in your ninth house, again, that energy from that Pisces Aries sun shining the light from your ninth house, and that full moon in March, coming over to the new moon in May, in April on the 15th. And so that April new moon in Pisces Aries is also in your ninth house, and it has to do with the pleasure principle being empowered by you. And so somehow, some way, there is a waxing moon energy in your gut chakra. There's a reassessment, a reevaluation, a reassessment of exactly what you need to revise in your plan based on that Uttara Falguni energy that recalculated what your pleasure is for this season, to ground it. And so grounding it with this Pisces Aries lunar energy is allowing you to tap into the supportive energy now. So what is energy other than moving information? So our collective celestial consciousness has to do with this celestial group that shares these general energies. But of course we have within that these other energies, moving information. That's why I like to call it a cosmic calculus, because these factors change. And this change from this pleasure principle to actually being able to, in this new moon phase, be inspired to empower this pleasure principle from your ninth house is saying that there is a higher wisdom that's coming through for you, and it's supported by the nakshatra of Ravati. Ravati is a higher energy. It is a very scientific, a spiritually scientific energy. It's the energy of people born with this particular moon nakshatra. They tend to be very good astrologers, very good Reiki practitioners. If they are also very good at any type of, tarot reading or readings, that sort of thing. And so regardless of where you get your higher information from, this energy is going to empower you to actually trust your gut and to revise what you need to do at this new moon time to make plans going through with your new moon cycle in April on the 15th. That is going to set up that April full moon on the 29th by allowing you to process what it is that has come through for you about what your pleasure actually will entail in the real world for you at this time. So maybe right now what you don't realize is that although the vision might be very clear to you from that March full moon with the communication in your third house that you've downloaded, that at this particular time during the new moon in April, you're still processing it. We see it with the balsamic moon card of processing, which has to do with downloading. This is the period right before the new moon, the balsamic moon card. And so it's a very powerful period of downloading information. I would suggest that prior to the new moon in April on the 15th, before you make your new moon wishes in April for your new lunar cycle, to perhaps really pay attention to what you're getting from Great Mother about the revisions and what you're processing with regard to your pleasure principle that you're wanting to initiate, some new goals, some new creative efforts, for example, because this new moon with Ravati is also about having the supportive energy available to you to self-sacrifice on behalf of others. And so maybe there are some areas in which your pleasure is calling you to take the needs of others in consideration as you receive these downloads. So let's say, for example, you are wanting to pursue a new creative dream or new, aspiration, or you are taking it to the next level. You're taking a relationship to the next level. Well, of course, you are considering the needs of whoever's involved in that relationship. You're considering the hopes and the aspirations of that person as well. And so that type of calculus does require a particular kind of processing that is spiritually scientific, that is able to make sense of the unconscious inspiration that's coming through to you during this new moon period. And so for you, I would suggest perhaps some new moon wishes having to do with that Pisces, Aries energy of wanting to act on that higher wisdom in your ninth house. And so maybe some wishes having to do with, I desire to trust, act upon, I desire to trust the higher wisdom that's coming through for me and to act upon it as it feels to be of my highest good. Those types of things. Trusting your mystical wisdom. Prayers that allow you to have confidence in that. Those types of new moon wishes for that Aries new moon in April, because as you move into the full moon in April on the 29th, we see that this is in your fourth house of Libra Scorpio. So this energy has to do, of course, with the home and domesticity, but it also has to do with how you are feeling taken care of. So with that Cancer in the sidereal, we are also looking at the North Node in the sidereal, or Rahu. And so there's a very strong impetus here to move toward more meaningful self-care so that you can care for others in ways that do support you fulfilling your pleasure. That new moon in April that was working with Ravati showed us that there was some need for self-sacrifice, but we're revisiting perhaps some areas with the balancing of that so that you can actually do that in a way that allows you to feel like you're cared for as well, to feel like your needs are cared for, to feel like you're nurtured as well. So there's kind of a balancing that goes on, which is very normal and routine during equinox seasons. And it seems that Great Mother's coming through and she's saying that that is your kind of balancing that's going on with this processing moment for that April new moon as you move into the April full moon that's in that Libra Scorpio fourth house energy of Pachamama. And Pachamama does have to do with leaving behind situations that no longer serve you. This is the waning gibbous moon root chakra card. And so this is about grounding yourself in the thanksgiving, the gratitude of the full illumination that you've had coming into this season, the Hattar card. And so this Hattar, this pleasure principle that you're seeking, this taking your desires, a relationship, a creative aspiration to the next level that is spiritually based, that is soul inspired, is requiring you to perhaps look at a hidden influence that is making you have to reground yourself based on your gratitude for this new insight. Okay, so you have a new insight to follow your pleasure, and this is a feeling that you've had coming into this. But the new moon kind of inspired you to process this so that you could make it practical in the world. And now as we come into the full moon of April, there's a need to actually connect with the ground, the trees, and the fairies, to ground it literally. So we're grounding the energy with Libra, Scorpio, celestial consciousness, which is all about balancing, the truth, balancing what you know, as is being fully illuminated by the sun this full moon, which is in your 10th house in Aries Taurus. And so that soul inspiration to act on what your values truly are. So there's something about regrounding yourself in these new values associated with what brings you pleasure now. What brings you pleasure now is not what brought you pleasure a year ago or even 6 months ago. This transition from leaving what no longer serves you to what does serve you in this new principle that you're asserting and grounding in your life, Chitra, the nakshatra that's supporting this, is an energy of the universal architect. So you are going to have this moving information that's coming to you to actually make you feel capable, make you feel able to draft your new life, to actually organize the elements and the resources that you need to facilitate this new life. Chitra is an energy that really allows those that are born under it to actually know how to make life more beautiful. The balancing act that people with this nakshatra have to perform, however, is because of the great amount of energy that is required to bring this into fruition. And this is full moon April energy for you. It can create consequences in the home environment. And so you have that fourth house energy with Libra, Scorpio, and your moon. And so emotionally really feeling like there may be an imbalance there as a result of that 10th house energy, Aries, Taurus, wanting to act on those new values, wanting to act on that beauty and that beautification of your life. There are some consequences in terms of family and children. You know, maybe they don't get as much time with you, perhaps, if that new pleasure principle doesn't include them. You know, you may be drafting a new life that has a relationship that has to do with your community. Maybe you're being more active in your community. Maybe you're getting more involved with something that has to do with your siblings and their life. Maybe you're assisting them some way or something like that. And so the family can sometimes suffer from that. And so that's the balancing act that you want to be aware of. If not your children, well, then you as the child and maybe parents not feeling like they're getting as much time with you as they would like, and that sort of thing. And so that's kind of the balancing act, but the energy that's available for you is that you have the ability to draft your life in a way. Aren't you glad that you're listening? So you have the insight and you know what's going on with this unconscious patterning that is developing for you in the cosmic calculus for your collective celestial unconsciousness. You will be able to beautify your environment. The Nefertiti card. You have the supportive energy to do that. Nefertiti was the queen of Akhenaten, the very first king on the planet to implement the worship of the one God. And she stood by his side and raised his children, including Tutankhamun, to carry this tradition on. In fact, the Christ is a part of this bloodline. And so Nefertiti is all about owning that divine beauty. In the scene of The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy does receive the broom from the witch's castle, she returns back to Oz's castle with the broom and presents it to him. This is the scene where she's doing that. You, Cancer, Leo moon people, are doing exactly that at this time. The new moon has brought you to a place in this full moon in April where you're going to be able to fully feel that you have earned your right to implement what this pleasure is in your life. You have considered the impact that it has on others, especially and including yourself. You've left situations where your energy has been drained in ways that don't allow you to pursue your principle, and you've reconnected, you've grounded yourself, having heard this and connected with Great Mother. You've known that you needed to spend more time in nature. You've done that, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes outside, barefoot, earthing. If it's been too cold for you to do that, just opening a window in a bathroom and breathing the air for a good 5 minutes, or sitting in the car and doing that full breath. I mean, just feeling what Great Mother is sending to you as this moving information, this energy that's always around us to support and to amplify our desires. Because what are our feelings at the end of the day? Our wants, our likes, our dislikes, what we don't want. And they're changing all the time, aren't they? But you, at the full moon in April on the 29th, in this energy of Libra Scorpio for you, balancing the truth has to do with owning your truth, owning your power specifically. The broom, that phallic symbol, is our power, and taking it back to a place where you were asked to show that you have that power. And so this family who perhaps wasn't supportive or didn't understand why you wanted to take a marriage or relationship to a next level. Maybe you've been dating someone and the kids haven't been all that excited about it, but now you really do see how this is going to work, and you can bring that power back and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Okay, if it's a creative endeavor, perhaps people in the family, again, probably didn't understand exactly, what are you talking about, this internet business, or what are you doing, and now you have a contract in your hand, or now you actually have started something where you're getting the following that you need to begin showing whatever it is that you need to show that your pleasure is exactly what you have said it was going to be. This fifth chakra, speaking, communicating. That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful for you, Cancer, Leo, Moon people. This Scorpio energy that's interfacing with that Libra Moon, with your Cancer Sidereal. It's really giving us a lot of insight into, where you are wanting to go for the rest of the year as well, into the next equinox season, I should say, the next 6 months as well, because of that Cancer and Rahu in the sidereal. That's where the collective consciousness is moving. And so the collective consciousness is moving into a more Cancerian type of thing. And so that is a self-loving, a self-caring thing, a self-nurturing thing, isn't it? Owning our beauty. You're going to augment this full moon energy in April by recognizing that you are doing a dance. Okay, now Great Mother is showing you that you have all of this support, this Ravati energy, ability to sacrifice yourself. You have this full moon support of owning your beauty. And now we're taking this to a rebirth. And so you're being actually reborn in a way of speaking and expressing yourself. This revisionary moon cycle of the waxing gibbous moon phase and the Osiris Horus card is talking about your rebirth as a result of this journey that you have initiated this spring equinox season. And as you are revising and reevaluating how you're moving forward, this full moon is telling us that you've been dancing with, whether or not to actually embrace that pleasure principle, whether or not to actually initiate this new way of being, this new next level of life or creativity. But that by this full moon, you will have done that. And you will have entertained the outcome of you doing that. This is when Dorothy actually dissolves the witch with the bucket of water. It's totally unexpected, that the witch would be killed as a result of her action to save Scarecrow, who the witch was burning with the torch. But in that process, she was devoured by the water, and we see the throat chakra here. And so by you expressing your creativity, by you expressing your pleasure principle, your particular need, your self-nurturing, maybe there may be some casualties in the process. This is hearkening back to the full moon starting off with a need to leave something that no longer supports you and to trust yourself. And I feel that these two are related because they talk about being reborn. When we leave something that no longer serves us, and what serves you is your pleasure principle at this time, then we're we're often provided an opportunity to be reborn. So this energy of Chitra that knows how to make life beautiful, that as a result of that, being able to plan life and bring it to fruition, as we see in this full moon, as a result of revising and redrafting and replanning, can cause some casualties in the family, with children or with yourself as a child, that there may be a rebirth. And it's very likely that by the April full moon, this dance that you're doing will result in that resurrection of yourself, not by any direct action that you're taking, but by you actually following that higher wisdom that has inspired your pleasure principle. So Great Mother just wants you to have a little heads up that maybe some heads may turn, and it won't be as a result of you having done anything intentionally to cause that, but just out of the natural process of the cycles of life. As we move forward from the April full moon into May, it's important to note that Uranus will be transitioning from Aries after a 7-year transit into Taurus. Now, I know Jupiter and Mercury are in retrograde, and we talk about those in the personal readings. In general readings, no, retrogrades do not work in general moon readings. But Uranus is moving from Aries into Taurus for the next 7 years in May. And so this conjuncts the May new moon that's happening on the 15th. Why is that important? Uranus in Western astrology rules Aquarius. Uranus is that soul divinity, that soul genius. It's that innovative, aspirational, humanitarian energy. It symbolizes sudden changes and lightning and oil rigs and sudden abundance and sudden insights and all of that wonderful stuff. And so we have the new moon in May in Aries Taurus, and so Aries in the sidereal is being supported by the nakshatra of Bharani, and Bharani can bear the negativity of others. And so as we're transitioning from Aries, which is about me and my unique genius, and haven't we seen that in the world in the last 7 years, into my unique genius as it relates to my wants and my desires and my pleasures in life. This is an interesting juxtaposition for this Taurus new moon, which is about bearing the negativity of others as we, as a collective unconsciousness, begin to reassess and gain clarity about our unique soul desires and pleasures. And so speaking about your pleasure and Uranus moving into Taurus and this new moon being in Aries Taurus, you're going to be really inspired to reassess your hopes, your dreams, your wants, your aspirations in life. This is going to be a very powerful new moon for you. And it's powerful because you're going to actually really feel like you're being taken into a new realm of inspiration, so to speak. This nakshatra Bharani is about experiencing the pleasures of life. And so it's going to take you into an even deeper level of where you perceive you wanted to go, as indicated by the Wild Woman card. Baba Yaga is the Slavic goddess who lives in a wooden shack on chicken legs. She is very unconventional, and she truly does bear the negativity of others. Can you imagine, what people say about her and this and whatever? But she's a very wise woman who people have to go to when they really, 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 really need to connect with what's going on in their lives. And she's a wild woman because she lives in the moment and doesn't suppress that aspect of herself. We call her that because we do. It's not appropriate, it's inconvenient, it's a shadow side, which is why this is a new moon card. The ultimate lunar shadow, which is that phase of download and inspiration. This is your May new moon, Cancer, Leo moon people. It's a new moon card of Baba Yaga. So Great Mother's coming through, encouraging and inspiring you not to suppress your wild woman, that creative spark that is really now wanting to take that pleasure to the next level. Maybe that new relationship that you were contemplating, maybe you have been resisting thinking of the next step in terms of marriage. I'm not saying that you need to marry someone. This is an example for the general collective unconsciousness. If it is a creative endeavor and you really have been on the, on the fence about whether to invest in it and take it to the next level, Great Mother is saying that even though you may not clearly see things, look at that fifth chakra. This is fifth chakra new moon card. It's time to express yourself, even though there may be some fears. This is the scene when Dorothy and the three arrive at the dark forest, and there's a sign right there saying the witch's castle is just up the road, but I wouldn't go. I'd go back if I were you. So which one is it? Where are we going to be on the fence? This spring equinox is going to present this as a free will opportunity and unconscious insight for you. It might bring up some unconscious patterning where this type of thing has come up for you before. But knowing Cancer, Leo, Moon, you do have the wherewithal to act on it. And Great Mother is coming through and she's saying, do it. Do it. This new moon is giving you the confirmation that you need, the inspirational insight that you need at this time. And this is really, really, really being indicated by what you expect. You expect that your feelings are going to be confirmed. You expect that at this time that what you are actually believing to do your pleasure is going to be your pleasure. You are expecting fully to have your wishes realized. Cancer, Leo, Moon people, this is not a surprise for you. And so as we look at this new moon energy in May on the 15th, we're seeing that Bharani is in your 10th house. And so again, these wishes, these aspirations, that your resource commitment, maybe it is your career. Maybe it is something that has to do with how you are going to translate your higher insights into a project that you've always wanted to do. This is that Aries Taurus energy for you. And this Demeter card is saying that if you can see, it is the card when Dorothy dons her ruby red slippers. And so own your birthright, which is what the slippers symbolize in the Great Mother Speaks deck. Own your birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. This is going to be the supportive energy that's available to you despite any negativity that may be coming at you. Remember, Bharani allows you to actually, withstand the negative impact of others. And so there may be some, flashback or some kickback or whatever like that, but you'll be able to bear it. You'll be able to bear it. You'll be able to use that lioness, masculine energy, that fixed energy to blaze that fire and shine that light. Leo is ruled by the sun. And this is a full moon card right in the center of your reading. So, bearing the negativity of others is not going to keep you from accepting how you are feeling at this time based on your inspiration to live your pleasure. And so we see this equinox energy here from the beginning of the reading to the center of your reading, the new moon in May. How gorgeous is that on the 15th of May? So the encouragement to go through and to be reborn and owning your beauty based on this inspiration of pleasure is all available for you. And what Great Mother is saying is that as the full moon in May comes, the end of May on the 29th, accepting your feelings, confirming that despite some challenges, you're going to really be able to center yourself and recenter yourself in ways that you haven't been able to before, because you are bolstered by all of this supportive energy and insight that you have received today. Tara is about centering. It is, in fact, when Dorothy realizes that Oz really can't get her home, and the balloon that he tries to in a last-ditch effort to do so descends back to the ground, and she's just looking like, okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. The May full moon, you're going to actually be able to be in that place. And she wasn't in a place of exasperation, but she was in a place of hope. If you remember, the three had already received their gifts, and so she knew hers was forthcoming. And in the same second, Glinda appeared. So we have this phase where it's waxing up to that full moon realization of what you know, but it hasn't been realized yet. And so the full moon in May is going to confirm that inner wisdom. This is the third eye waxing gibbous card. It's going to confirm that. And you're going to, this is the waning gibbous, I'm sorry. You're going to be able to have the gratitude for that. There's going to be gratitude for trusting yourself and trusting your pleasure up to the point. This is when she clicks. The Tara card is when Dorothy clicks her heels 3 times and she returns home. This is the full moon realization that inner insight that you've had since the beginning of what your pleasure is has been worth the journey. And so even though you were 2 months into this spring equinox, there is some resolve about where you've been and where you're going. Body, mind, soul. Those are the 3 clicks of the ruby red slippers, your birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. The insight that you've developed through this journey has allowed you to experience this Scorpio Sagittarius full moon from your 5th house. Leo is 5th house energy. You are expressing that pleasure now. You have grounded that pleasure now. You are clicking your heels now. You are returning to that home, that inner space, that soul space, that scorpion space of what you know, the truth of your higher knowledge, Sagittarius, emotional, and the Western to be. The sun is illuminating this, of course, in your 11th house in Taurus, Gemini. And so your 11th house having to do with how you are representing this pleasure in the world, how you are sharing this pleasure with others, because as we see in the waning gibbous moon, that sharing and Thanksgiving moon is all about sharing what has truly come to full illumination. It's an absolutely beautiful reading for you, Cancer, Leo, Moon people. It's saying that you're going to, in this spring equinox season, overcome some issues as they relate to a deeper expression of yourself and of your pleasures. You've been doing that, and so you already know that you can do that, that you're able to do that, that you're capable, but there are some remnant challenges that this spring equinox is going to allow you to overcome. And as you do that, you're going to let go of those doubts. You're going to let go, rather, of those imbalances as well that have prevented you from fully realizing your power to do so. Okay? So, wow, what a awesome April and May. And as you are working with this energy, Great Mother is saying to always remember how important it is whenever you experience any pain or a judgment or condemnation from others to ask yourself, is it true? Ask yourself, for example, when you are bearing the negativity of others, as we saw with Bharani during the new moon in May, on the 15th, during that time, before the full moon, before you actually are clicking your heels going home, there's a bit of a challenge there. And so we see that during the full moon, you may actually still be feeling a little bit of that with self-inquiry. This is when Dorothy returns home, right after she clicks her heels. It's a balsamic moon card. This is a download card. And so Great Mother wants you to download that you are definitely worthy, that you are definitely supported with Earth Father energy. Earth Mother is typically what we refer to Earth energy as in the Western world. But in the Eastern world, Earth Father is often associated with the physical manifestation of the earth energy. And so as you have brought this pleasure into the physical world, and now it's manifesting, and you're centering in that, and you're very grateful, you're sharing it with the world, this 11th house energy in Taurus, Gemini, there are some remnants of this frustration. And Dorothy, when she returned home, there was some frustration when she was grounding what she had learned in Oz on the farm. She wasn't heard, and she wasn't necessarily believed. And so there may be some of that, even though you have grounded your creativity, you've grounded your pleasure, you've grounded your relationship, your project to the next level. There's always a little, flack and a little feedback. That's part of our soul journey. The purification never ends, right? Then what Great Mother is saying is that there needs to be a self-inquiry. Ask, is it true? Is it true that I don't deserve this pleasure? Is it true that I'm doing this wrong, or that I'm not considering my children after I've done my best to process everything? After you really, really have done your best to process everything, is it true? And when it comes back to you that it's not, but that in actuality you're owning your beauty, well, then you just need to take your broom. Just take your power. Just own your power. That is the death and rebirth process. And so as I go back and forth with these cards, you can see that I'm going back and forth from different lunar cycles. And often, if you're a subscriber, you remember that I will encourage you to do that during lunar readings. I'll say, during a full moon reading, go back to what Great Mother was saying during the new moon, or go back to what Great Mother was saying the prior full moon, because these energies do work and they culminate during different phases and different times for us. They're always in cycle, aren't they? That cosmic calculus is changing and is shifting depending on when we take advantage of the moving information to implement it. And it seems that your celestial collective unconsciousness is going to really be working with that full moon in May in the 5th house to express yourself. And in the public arena, that may be creating a need for you to real size your expectations of others and just really get real about what you're doing and how you're doing it when comments are made, that sort of thing. That's really, really important, what Great Mother is saying for you. Self-inquiry, I always like to encourage people to look up the work of Byron Katie, Byronkatie. I use that in my practice to miraculous result with self-inquiry. May. This is your immediate outcome from all of this as you're working through this during this May full moon on the 29th. Justice. It's all really, really going to be worth it. It may not feel like it is at the time, because what this card is saying is that you may experience an outcome that you weren't expecting. So the pleasure principle that you've been working toward is realized, but not the way you would expect it. So that new creative project, perhaps working with a group of people to do some environmental work in the community or something, or work with kids in schools or something, you didn't get the grant to do what you wanted to do, but some businesses at the Chamber of Commerce already had a program for that, and they didn't have any applications this year to give, to work with, to collaborate with in a community collaborative stake, holders type of thing, and someone mentioned your name. It's a whole different dynamic, and you have to kind of change exactly how you're doing it. You aren't, doing certain components of it the way that you thought, but it's still there. And for some people, that might be upsetting. And so what Great Mother is saying with the Justice card, the first quarter, third eye card, is that first quarter moon is about choices, it's about decisions, it's about facing challenges with the inner wisdom that all is well. So the nakshatra that you're working with here is Anudra. And Anudra is very knowledgeable. It's very successful. And so that works really well with Mayat. Trusting this inner wisdom to face that challenge, that outcome that wasn't expected from following your pleasure. It is a lunar nakshatra from which people are incarnated with an energy that just commands respect. They tend to have a very spotless reputation. So this is kind of saying, have the broad view, the bird's eye view of really what's going on with you. It's not just about, this personal pleasure. It's really about this entire soul experience. Remember, the soul is incarnated as your moon sign in Leo from Cancer to have a particular experience. This Cancer feminine is balancing itself with this Leo action. And so sometimes when we have that kind of dynamic, the ego can be overly masculine or yang in its approach and what it gets its downloads to do and to feel and to align with. And so what Great Mother is saying with this third eye feminine energy, this very lunar energy, is saying, remember what inspired all of this. And what inspired all of this was to be in that dark night and trust what that pleasure is for you on an ego soul level, that alignment, what feels good for you. That Anudra supportive energy during the May full moon in Scorpio Sagittarius with this Taurus Gemini Sun energy, which is all about, grounding yourself in what you are sharing with people. They're going to have that perception of you as respectable. They're going to, people are going to look at you like that. So even though there may be some challenges, using the example of the community project, you will be able to communicate your concerns. Well, this particular component is not how we work the project because of this, this, and this. Can we consider this, this, and this? You're going to have the gravitas with people to overcome that challenge. So that is what the May full moon is bringing forward for you. You have on the one hand the Scorpio Sagittarius energy communicating your higher truth, expressing that, getting that follow through with centering, with your wishes being fulfilled. But then you have that 11th house energy that's bringing forward a need to ask yourself what the truth is when you get any flack or any feedback about it, and any frustrations as a result of that. Just seeing the bigger picture and working with that Anudra energy to communicate again that 5th house energy, which has to do with expression, expressing what your needs and your wants truly are, because we're talking about that 10th house energy again, where Uranus is in. And what kicked off the month for you was the Aries Taurus new moon. So that brings May to a close, and that allows us to see May in the light of really kind of reassessing how you're going to ground your pleasure in the world. But it also, with Anudra, is making sure that the imbalance for you doesn't have to do with emotional attachments. That Cancer soul energy can be a little bit too attached to where you can't draft and plan and architect your new life. And so it seems that this season is allowing you to balance yourself out a little bit broader in the world. And the embodiment that Great Mother is saying is that you are at this crossroads in your life at this time where you don't have to give up that higher wisdom. You don't have to give up that Cancer and nature, that soul impulse to express yourself and to feel emotionally connected to people. You just want to release the attachment. This is the crescent moon card in the 5th chakra. And so we are planting new seeds of expression. This is the scene in The Wizard of Oz when the Wicked Witch of the East is trying to steal the shoes from Dorothy in the castle and gets shocked And so this supportive energy in a Nudra is all about you being able to knowledgeably and successfully communicate your needs in a way that your wants will be fulfilled, your pleasure will be fulfilled, but you are going to have to stand your ground, and you're not going to be overcome by anything taking your birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. Isn't that wonderful? And so just embodying that demeanor, that energy of a Nudra, that spotless reputation, that successful energy that is available for you with this full moon on the 29th in Scorpio Sagittarius. The nakshatra of a Nudra is really working on your behalf to overcome any challenges or disappointments that you might have, and keep it moving, okay? Keep it purified and sharpening that knife of communication. You have a lot of fifth chakra cards and this fifth house of expression, and so you're really refining that is the message as you plan to go forward. Now, the planning of this is culminated in this arc into a June season of actual illumination, as we see with the Isis card, the root chakra full moon card. The Isis self-mothering card is saying that in June, the new moon on the 13th is going to offer you an outcome as a result of all this, to take better care of yourself, to take more consideration of what your needs are. Having come through that and heard from Great Mother about the need to assert your needs while listening to others and going deeper into that, you're going to be able to take care of yourself in ways that you haven't been able to in the past, or that you haven't recognized that you've needed to in the past. And so this full moon card is saying that that's coming to full illumination to you now at the beginning of June. This new moon is in Taurus Gemini. Again, the full moon in Taurus Gemini in your 11th house is now in the 11th house of the new moon in June. So you are actually feeling inspired at this time to shine a light of self-care and nurturing in your public image, with groups of people, in your connections and networks with people. You are really balancing your life in that way, because this Taurus Gemini energy is saying on a soul level you are getting to a place of being really comfortable in your skin about this new expression, this Gemini, this tropical emotional. And so you're being inspired by this through the nakshatra of Rohini. And so Rohini is going to have you feel inspired to initiate new relationships, maybe new inspired connections with people that will allow you to fulfill what those pleasures are. So let's say, for example, in Rohini, when you're renewing a friendship or a network with what you've had going on here, it may be replacing those that you left behind earlier in your journey of taking your power back to get to that deeper level of pleasure, letting go of those things that did not support your empowerment to pursue your pleasure. And so Rohini is going to give this new moon in June a kind of a self-caring energy that regrounds you in your truth, that regrounds you in that 11th house in a way that there is a passionate creativity that allows for business success and your artistic talents to be rerouted in a new way, going from, the public arena with the project with the kids that you used to do with the school district to, working with the businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, for example. That was an excellent example, of how this energy can work. It can transition you and transform you through the supportive energies that you've been working with, and culminating to this June lunar season to reground you now finally in living this publicly in the world and in connection with others. This Taurus Gemini energy communicates that truth in a way that you do truly acknowledge where in the past there has been a lack of the support that you've needed. There has been perhaps a feeling of abandonment or even abuse as it relates to this deeper expression of your pleasure. And so with this energy, it's a balsamic energy that, again, is this new moon energy of downloading what Great Mother has to say to you, and she's really cautioning you about going backwards. She's really saying continue going forward, as we see here with Dorothy on her return home. The acknowledgement card, having to do with one God, one law. We are all here on a journey to learn things, and we sharpen one another. And so we don't judge one another because we don't truly understand each other's perspective. So we just trust that we are divine children of the Great Mother, Father, God, and we're all doing our best. But there is a need to acknowledge when we are suffering as a result of the behavior of others. And in this acknowledgement card, this scene in the Wizard of Oz, she returns home and she awakens to a complete or almost complete, as we see through the balsamic moon, is that it's not completely dark, but there's a resistance to her truth, to the new life and the new person that she is as a result of her experience. It's not acknowledged. And so that's what the acknowledge card has to do with. That new moon in June, that's all about that truth in Taurus, the Sidereal and the Rohini, that is successful, that is able to reinitiate and reunite with those that perhaps you haven't talked to in a long time, but now are the ideal friends and associates for you to have, because you don't want to expose yourself to the lack of care that you now know you so desperately need. Okay? And so this is a very beautiful outcome of all of this that has occurred for you during this season, to culminate with a full moon in June to follow the yellow brick road. That is the Mauve card. And this is about taking responsibility as it relates to following your yellow brick road. Take a breath. This has been a journey for you, and it culminates with this energy that says that Cancer Leo lunar energy has come to a place where it can share from its journey. It can share its pleasures and creativity and projects and new relationships in a grounded way that takes you to that next level in life. This is that gut chakra card that says that you can trust your gut now. You can truly trust what those instinctual responses you have about people. Okay, this is root chakra energy, about experiences. You know your truth now. You have gone through an experience of having to test and trust your own power. And you've had to go beyond shadows that have told you that this is going to be hard. And although the only difficulty in any of this has been accepting your internal world, accepting and acknowledging your feelings, you've done that. And you have been able to confront potential disappointments in a way that didn't sell you out. Okay? You're standing in the power. You're standing in the supportive energy, which is going to give you a full moon in Sagittarius Capricorn that downloads that sage wisdom in practical ways in your life. It's very momentous. This is in your 6th house. And so this is daily life, work-life balance, your health, Okay, how you are actually devising and strategizing how you're moving forward. This is real now. And so this energy of sharing yourself and being grateful for the journey is such a beautiful outcome for your reading, Cancer, Leo, Moon people. This is supported by nakshatra energy of Mool. And Mool dispels any type of illusionary experiences. You know, it gets to the bottom of things. It gets to the root of things. It is able to deal with destructive issues in life. So any abandonment or abuse issues that have come up, it's got that. It's good. It's going to continue on its yellow brick road, on its journey with wellness and with optimism. It's going to trust the full moon light that is illuminating this energy in the 12th house, which is the end of the zodiac wheel. That's the end of the journey. That's when we integrate the experience, and that's when we can download the wisdom from the experience. And for you, with this 12th house energy coming from Gemini, Cancer, it's saying that, you know, you are receiving those downloads, you know, from Cancer, those emotional downloads. You are receiving those in a way that you can express your personal needs of nurturing and nurturing others with your pleasure and with your creative process in ways that you've never done before, Cancer, Leo, Moon people. This is taking your life to a whole different level, your expression to a whole different level. It's not only evolving it, but it is on a emotional, earth-centered, tropical astrological aspect, maturing it. And Great Mother's coming through, and she's saying that you have what it takes to get to and through that process. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, and liking. But above all and most of all, remember, Great Mother loves you, and I do too.
I am Great Mother, Holy Spirit, Yin, Divine Mother, Cosmic Womb, Deep Space, the Moon.